Everybody keeps saying it's going to get better. How is it going to get better? Our economy is so fucked that I work a full-time job. I make $21 an hour working 40 hours a week. I have no extra expenses, no bills out of my living. I have one credit card that's maxed because I've lived off of it, but other than that, I don't have cable. I haven't had cable in 10 years. We have cell phones, but, you know, that's required to live on. But other than that, nothing extra. On paper, my bills are $2,701. My income is $2,710. Do the math. $9 a month before I pay for food, gas, car repairs, any entertainment. There's no money for that. And my car is dying. It's paid for, so I don't have car payments now that I'm going to replace. And I don't know how to do that on $9 a month. $9 to feed myself, $9 to buy a car, $9 for insurance. Yeah. So at the end of the day, this is me because I worked 8.5 hours a day knowing that it's not enough, that it won't be enough. Fuck you, Ontario.
I'm an American. I pay $1,600 for a flat that has no bedroom. That's 2/3 of my income. I'm an American. I work 50 hours a week. I don't have health insurance. I'm an American. I couldn't afford to have a child even if I wanted to. I'm $7,000 in debt. I'm an American. My health is declining because I can't afford Whole Foods because that's too expensive for my life. I am very overqualified for my job, but no one else is hiring. I'm an American. I make my boss hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, while I can barely keep myself alive. I'm an American. I have never been out of the States. I have never been on a vacation. I'm an American. I make $20-some an hour. A livable wage here is like 30-some. Yet I don't qualify for government assistance whatsoever. On the days I don't work, I'm so tired I just sleep all day. I'm an American. My electric bill is so expensive I sit outside in the heat because I can't afford to turn the AC on in the damn house. I'm an American, and I fear I'm just an average American. I'm living the American dream.
Hey TikTok, I'm just on here wondering if anybody's feeling the same way I'm feeling. I'm from Illinois and I feel like the gas prices and the electric bills and the prices of food is just so overwhelming anymore. Like, I'm wondering if anybody else is feeling like they're drowning and they can't get out. I work overtime and I cannot get above water. I mean, I literally have no gas for next week. It was either that or get a few groceries to get by. I hit my local food pantries. I'm just wondering if anybody else feels like they're drowning. But anyway, I hope everybody has a great day.
Can we talk about how miserable white people are for a second? Like, you know that white people are miserable, right? Like, have you ever looked a white person in the eye, even if they're like a big mental health person? You just look deep down and you're like, brother, you are not happy at all. And truly, it breaks my heart. But one reason, I think, one of the main reasons that a lot of white people, a lot of us are really unhappy and miserable is because we lack internal congruence. Now, congruence is a concept we learned early in grad school to help people heal. And congruence is basically internal alignment. Values and actions are on the same page, right? Like we accept every part of ourselves. We feel peace, security in who we are, congruence. And no matter how hard you try, you can never find internal congruence if you're not congruent with the world around you. If you're not understanding what's real and seeing reality and affirming what's true. So like white people who deny patriarchy and capitalism's negative effect and oppression of the world and genocide that's happening around the world, like that's incongruent with reality. That is going to have an effect on us internally. Because to deny what's happening in real time, we have to deny certain parts of us, certain emotions, certain thoughts that come up. And the more we run for that, the more incongruent and separate we feel, the more dissonance that comes, the more miserable we are. And a lot of times we're not actually dealing with our own pain and our own reality because we're all suffering under capitalism and white supremacy. Like it affects us different ways in intersectionality, but like it affects us white people too. You don't think a stormtrooper in the fucking Star Wars movies hates his life? You don't think he hates being bossed around all the time? You don't think poor white people living in the empire, like in a city walls, like in a Game of Thrones, like you don't think that they're miserable under it, even though they're not miserable the most? To be congruent inside, to not be miserable anymore, it takes accepting the realities of the world, seeing how those toxic systems affect us, and then moving to actually be congruent. Because deep down, humanity has goodness at its center. So yeah, white people, we're miserable because we're not congruent, because we're denying the realities of the world, and thus denying ourselves.
For the longest time in America, there was this idea that poverty and suffering only belonged to Black people. White folks looked at us and thought, that's their problem, not ours. But now, they are having their wake-up call. Poverty doesn't care about color, and suddenly, white America is realizing that struggle is knocking on their own doors too. Oh my God, this is so crazy. Yeah, I cannot believe this. Please kindly watch these videos. We come back with more commentary.
This is the first month I won't be able to afford rent. I'm not a rich person. I don't have a lot of stuff. I have basic household necessities, a couch, a bed, washer, a dryer. That's about it. A car. I don't have a lot of lavish things. I don't go on vacations and I don't spend a lot. Rent's increased from $1,300 to $1,800. The food prices are too high. I've cut back on eating because I literally cannot afford food. I've cut back on my favorite snacks, cat food, treats. I'm exhausted all the time from being overworked and underpaid. You don't catch a break when you grow up poor. I don't need much to be happy. I just want to be able to live comfortable. I just really need to catch a break right now. I'm trying so hard and I feel like I'm not doing enough. I don't have family. I don't have anything to fall back on.
I'm absolutely heartbroken. Someone's jumped over in the night and put salt all over the land. That means everything I've planted won't grow. And I can't replant on it because it won't grow. So all the hours and hours and hours of work that we've put in is now dead. And they've done it everywhere. How could you do that? Literally. I hope it makes you happy. I really do. Top person. But you know what? You won't stop me because I'll just pick it all up and I'll carry on. Okay, I can't plant in this section, but I'll carry on. You won't stop me whatsoever.
Everyone white who came over here got free land. If you served in the military prior to the Civil War, you were given something called a land bounty grant. The land bounty grants are exactly what they sound like. They're big-ass plots of land. These plots were mainly given out in military territories, like Ohio. Because before Ohio was a state, it was just a bunch of bases. and a few 100,000 Native Americans, which we killed. We don't talk about genocide. I need you to understand that pretty much
seeing poor white men is like seeing Jamaicans losing in a sprint. This game was designed for you to win.
Why, oh why do poor white people vote against themselves time and time again? They vote for Trump and the other MAGA politicians only to have every promise broken, prices go up, social supports evaporate. Here's why. First, remember what I talked about recently, the psychological wage of whiteness. That term was coined by W.E. Du Bois to describe poor white folks being paid with social status rather than decent living conditions. They're convinced by the elites that they're better than black folks, better than immigrants, Latinos, LGBTQ folks. They're convinced that being white puts them in the same league as the elites. Of course, the elites know otherwise, but the poor whites buy it because they're grasping at straws. Second, they are convinced that the people they're supposedly better than are the big threat in their lives. Not the rich, not the corporations or the politicians, but immigrants, black folks, welfare queens, LGBTQ, criminals, you know, the usual scapegoats. Third, the elites promise protection to poor white folks. A politician comes along and says, I'll keep those people in their place, or I'll kick them out, or I'll lock them up. Or, more politely, I'll defend your values. They don't say, I'll make your life better. Well, they say it, they just don't mean it. They'll say, I'll make sure they don't get ahead of you. Fourth, they vote for the punishment, not the policy. When a law gets passed that slashes public housing or school funding or food aid, they think, good, that'll stop those lazy freeloaders. And they do some mental gymnastics that make them believe it's worth losing those things for their own families in order to see those problematic black people and immigrants and so forth being punished. It gets to a point where just seeing those guys being punished is reward enough, which is pretty sick, but that's how behavior works. Their housing, schools, and groceries are on the chopping block too, but they blame that on Biden. Always a scapegoat. They get hit by the same policies they were told would punish the others, and they blame the wrong people. The system fails them, but they've been trained to blame the scapegoats, not the cause, which is the rich people, the people they voted for. So they think the problem is still those people, not the fact that they were personally manipulated by the people they voted for. They're basically saying, I'll take the hit as long as you don't help them, or worse, as long as you hurt them. That is the psychological wage Du Bois was talking about, the trade-off between material security for racial status. And that's a crying shame, folks. One share, like, save, and comment shows that you care about white people taking responsibility for racism in America. This work is important to me, and I want to keep doing it. If you want to support me, consider a donation of any size to coffee.com/Kelly Snyder. And yeah, spelling is important. Get curious.
For generations, poverty was attached to black faces. The media showed images of poor black neighborhoods, ignored poor whites, and made poverty look like it was only about race. And many white Americans believed it. They thought if you worked hard enough, if you were white, you would never suffer. But history always comes full cycle, and now we see poverty spreading in their communities too. This is unbelievable. So look around, huh? Factories closing, jobs disappearing, rent and food prices climbing through the roof. White families who thought they were safe are now lining up at food banks, applying for government help, struggling to pay medical bills. Oh my God, they are facing the same reality that Black families have dealt with for decades. And the shock on their face, that's the wake up call. Yeah. Here is the truth: poverty was never just a Black problem, it was always a system problem. Yeah, Black people just experienced it first and hardest because of slavery, racism, and unfair laws. But now white families are learning what it feels like to be left behind, to be ignored and struggling. What they once judged, they are now living through. This life no balance. So what does this mean? It means poverty doesn't discriminate. It means the fight isn't black versus white, it's the people versus a system that keeps millions poor while a few stay rich. Maybe, just maybe, this will open some eyes because once you feel the pain yourself, you can't deny it anymore. The question is, will this wake up call bring us together to fight for change, or will it just bring more divisions? Tell me. So, my reaction is this: white Americans thought poverty was something that only belonged to Black people. Now they're realizing it belongs to them too. And this wake up call might be the only way America finally understands that poverty is not about color, it's about power. So, what do you think? Will this moment open doors for unity and real change? Or will people keep blaming each other instead of the system? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading them all. So, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for the love and support. I really appreciate you guys and I love you so much. Guys, I love you so much. And I'm humbled, very humbled to have you here as my family. So thank you so much. Catch you next time. Bye.